Stop me if you've heard this one. A guy walks into a bar and he says,
Microjig, maker of the gripper. Work safer, work smarter.
I'm gluing together 2 pairs of these 3/4 inch thick boards. I want the seat to also be 1.5 inches thick, so I'm gluing together some wider boards. To square these up, I'm going to start by jointing one edge using this jig on my table saw. I want the legs to be square, so I'm going to set my rip fence to the width of this board and rip these into 1.5 inch wide strips. All of the legs are going to need to tilt in 2 directions, this way and this way, which means I need to make a compound miter cut on all of the ends. And that just means I'm going to tilt my blade to 7 degrees and I'm going to tilt my miter gauge to 7 degrees. You could also do this if you have a compound miter saw. So that'll let the leg lean in 2 different directions. Now the next cut is going to be the critical one because that determines the length of the legs and I need them all to be exact. So I think what I'm going to do is gang these up, clamp them together and try to cut them all at the same time. These legs look like a perfect opportunity for me to screw up which sides I drill the holes in. So I'm going to kind of set them up here and mark which side the holes go on so I don't mess it up. To make the holes, I need to tilt my drill press table to that same 7 degrees. Each leg gets a hole that's 10 inches from the bottom on one side and 9 inches from the bottom on the adjacent side. And the same goes from the top. The confusing part is to make sure that this goes in the right way in my drill press so that the angle of the hole is parallel with the floor. I hope all that made sense. I've clamped on a stop block to my fence that's 10 inches from the drill bit, so I should be able to make all of these the same. And I've set up a depth stop on the drill press so that the bit will stop halfway through each leg. With all 4 of those made, now I can move my stop block over to my 9-inch mark. By the way, I sure am glad I have a drill press table. And I'll just repeat the process and make all the 9-inch holes, which will be just slightly below the previous holes. Now I need to reposition my stop block to this side to cut the upper holes. I can't just flip the board around or the holes would be going the wrong direction. I think I'm going to clamp these boards down too so they don't slide when I try to drill the hole. I screwed this piece of plywood onto my workbench so I can set the bottoms to the legs against it. I've cut these 2 pieces of plywood to that same 7-degree angle and I'll screw this one in. I want the bottom span of the legs to be 13 inches, so I'll set this other angled piece to the 13-inch mark. Now I can cut the dowels to size by just test fitting it. I can tell that this is too long. Really the way I'm approaching this is just a lot of trial and error. There's a good fit. It just takes time and you just gotta be patient. But before I glue it together, I need to round over the edges of the legs on my router. Another thing I did is I labeled all of these dowels so it'll be a lot easier to set this back up. I'm putting a much smaller round over on the 3 inside edges. I'm going to drill 1 pocket hole near the top of each leg to attach them to the seat. Okay, now it's just a matter of gluing all these dowels in. It's a good thing I marked them. It makes this a lot easier. Whew. I brought it out here to my table saw because I know it's a perfectly flat surface and I could check to see if there's any wobble to it, but it looks good. I'll glue these 3 boards together for the seat. I'm gonna make it the same diameter as the width of the legs. I'm finishing this by wiping on a few coats of Danish oil, and I thought it'd be a good idea to do it now before I attach the seat. I let this all dry overnight, and it's got just a great look and feel to it. I'm really becoming a fan of that Danish oil. Because these dowels are in the way, my drill doesn't fit properly into these holes to put the pocket screws in. So I'm gonna use this funky angle attachment that Todd Clippinger sent me a couple months ago. I'm gonna give this one final test on my table saw to see if it's level. And it is. It's always funny when things like that surprise me. Despite the fact that this bar stool is really a simple design and there's not a lot of components to it, it really turned out to be one of the most challenging projects I've made in a while. Of course, a strong challenge now and then is good for the soul. If you'd like to challenge yourself with this bar stool, check in the description for a free set of plans. My best advice for you is to take careful measurements and double check every piece before you cut it. I guess you could do that on all projects, right? But I think it's especially important on this project. Hey, in case you didn't know, I've got a second channel called Mere Minutes that you might want to check out and subscribe to. It's a more personal channel, a more chit-chat kind of channel. Chit-chat. I have 2 shows on that channel. I have Mere Minutes, which is my weekend vlog in which I give updates over this week's projects and I talk about other stuff. And I've got the Ask Mimo show that is becoming really popular, in which you can submit your own questions and I will sort of answer them. Like this. In England they say rebate. In America we say rabbit. In Australia they say wallaby. And of course, if you're new to this channel, I'd love to have you subscribe too. I post brand new videos every Friday. My goal with Woodworking for Mere Mortals is to provide you genuine value, inspiration, and community. Thanks for watching, everybody. I really appreciate your support.
My name is Mirza, and I'm a Mimo from Bosnia.
Oh, hi. My name is Gavin Nard, and I'm a Mimo from St. Petersburg, Florida.